So speak life to the day's darkest night. Speak life when the sun won't shine and you don't know why. Look into the eyes of the broken hearted. Watch them come alive as soon as you speak. You speak love, you speak. You speak life.
Are you going to say, you know what? I'm going to follow Christ and I'm going to do His will? Are you saying, I'm going to do my own thing and what I want to do? And can I tell you something? When you decide to do your own will and not God's will, other people suffer. Other people suffer when you decide to do your own will and not God's will. Let me explain it like this. That before Christy and I went into the ministry, and we were working and we were doing our own thing, and God started calling us into the ministry. And we had to decide at that moment, okay, are we going to do our will, or are we going to do God's will? And here's the thing. That was a struggle for us for a while. But if we would have never decided that, okay, we're going to do God's will and not our own. If we would have never decided that, some of you wouldn't be here today. Because you'd be other places, or some of you may not even be going to church at all. Because if we decided to do our own will and not God's will. Because you see, I have my own personality and I have an ability to be able to reach some of you guys that nobody else would ever be able to reach. And so if I decided to do my own thing and not do God's will, then some of you may not be here. And the same thing goes for you. You see, God's calling you, and God's got a calling on your life, and you have your own talents, your own abilities, and there's certain people that only you can reach. And if you choose to not do God's will and you choose to do your own will, then those people are going to suffer. And let me just throw you this out, that some of you are choosing to do your own will. You're choosing to do your own will, not God's will. Let me tell you how I know that. That because there's some spots where people are needed in ministry here. Like in Sunday school. And God's already spoken to you and told you that He wants you to teach that Sunday school class. And you're like, no, I don't want to teach. I want to do this. It's covered. Rebecca's got it. And God said, but I'm not calling Rebecca to do it. I'm calling you to do it. You're, no, I'm going to do it my way. And so for some of you, you need to get to that place. You say, okay, God, I know you're calling me to do ministry. I know you give me the gift to teach. I know you give me the ability to love kids. And so I'm going to make that move and I'm going to do it. Because our children are suffering because you're not willing to obey God. And you're doing your own thing. Rebecca is suffering. Not that it's a problem. She loves teaching the kids. But Rebecca's got a lot of other stuff to be doing as far as teaching and being over the curriculum as far as for our teachers that she needs to be doing. But she's having to do this because we're not willing to obey. We're not willing to do what God's calling us to do. And so people are suffering. You see, when a worshiper doesn't sacrifice their plans for God's plans, what's on the other end is, I said, people suffer. If Jesus didn't sacrifice, or if Jesus said, you know what, I'm not going to die on the cross. Instead, I'm going to go for comfort. None of us would be saved. Because Jesus didn't die on the cross for us. But thank goodness Jesus said, you know what? Not my will, but your will. And to be a worshiper, to be a sacrificer, to have God's plan, there's some things that He wants you to give up. Matter of fact, the Bible says that Jesus called the crowd to Him along with His followers. He said, if people want to follow me, they must be willing to give up things they want. They must be willing to even give up their lives to follow me. You know what a worshiper asks? A worshiper asks, God, what do you want? Not what do I want. See, many of us are going through life and we're saying, what do I want? I want this. I want that. But a true worshiper says that it's not what do I want, God, but what do you want? What do you want me to do, God? What is it you're calling me to do, God? That is what true worship is. As a matter of fact, that takes an attitude adjustment, doesn't it? Because it's naturally that we just want to think about ourselves. We're like, you know what? I know what I want. I know the things I want to do. I want to do these things. But then all of a sudden God says, no. I want you to do something else. So there's an attitude adjustment that has to take place. Where we're not just thinking about us. Psalm 51 verses 16, 17 says this. It says, going through the motions doesn't please you. A flawless performance is nothing to you. I learned God worship when my pride was shattered. Heart-shattered lies, ready for love, don't for a moment escape God's notice. Heart-shattered lives, ready for love, don't for a moment escape God's notice. You see, it's an attitude adjustment, is what it is. We begin to get to that place where we're saying, you know what? I'm going to sacrifice my plans for God's plans. Because, God, you know better. You know so much more. And so, God, since you are all-knowing and that you know better, God, I'm going to sacrifice my plans because I know your plans are better. Let me put it like this. The NBA finals are going on right now. And Stephen Curry's hot. And y'all know Stephen Curry? I hope so. One of us, two of us do. Hallelujah. Three. But anyways, for you three that know Stephen Curry, it would be like me going to Stephen Curry saying, Steph, I'm noticing a little, you need to make a little adjustment with your shot. What you're doing, Steph, is when you catch the ball, you're bringing it down here, and then you're bringing it up here and shooting it. And when you do that, it's off a little bit. Instead, Steph, when you catch the ball, you don't bring it down here. You catch it here, and then you shoot. Because when you catch it down here, Steph, it's going to make you push the ball, and that's why it's off. Now, do you realize how stupid that would be of me telling Stephen Curry how to shoot basketball? If I'm lucky, I may hit one three-pointer in a blue moon. You know, that my shooting percentage is not that hot. I'm doing good if I can make 2 layups in a row. And here I am telling Stephen Curry, one of the greatest three-point shooters that's ever been, this way you need to shoot. Well, guess what? Many of us are doing the same thing with God. That God is all-knowing. God says, God's got a plan for you. I've already got it worked out. This is what I want you to do. And we say, wait a minute, God. I got my own plan. And my plan is to do this. And I know you're all-knowing. And I know that you've got everything figured out. But God, look at this plan over here. So God, I think I'm going to take this plan. And we're missing out on the worship. Worship is saying, you know what, God? I've got my plan. But God, you're all-knowing. That your plan is going to be better than mine. So I'm going to sacrifice my plan. And I am going to go with your plan. See the difference? That's worship. That's a lifestyle of worship. Instead of just being a temporary thing of just hanging around. And here's the thing. When you say that, when you say, God, I've got my own plan, but I'm going to sacrifice my plan, and I'm going to go with your plan, guess what you're doing? That's an expression of faith. I said that because some of us, man, You've already got it figured out, don't you? You've already got your plan. It's laid out. I mean, some of you detail people. You know, I'm not a detail type of guy. You know, I just show me the big picture. We're going to go that way, and we're going to figure out why we're going. And so let's just go. That's me. Now, some of you, you're like, okay, in order for me to get out of this sanctuary, I have got to take 23 steps and another half step to get to the door. And it's going to take 4 pounds of pressure to open that door. And I've got to take 1 step back. And you have every single detail of how you're going to get out of here. And so some of you, you've got every detail of your life planned out to the T. You spent days, weeks, months planning it. You've got it figured out. God's coming to mess you up now. He's coming to say, hey, I know you've got hours of this, you've got weeks, you've got months, you've got years of planning your life, but I've got a new plan for you. It's a better plan than what you have. And I want you to go on this plan right here that I have for you. And so for you, what you have to do is you have to leave this plan and come over here and say, God, I've got this plan worked out, but through faith, God, I'm believing I'm going to go on your plan. And what does God's word say about faith? It's impossible to please God without faith. And so when you say, okay, God, I'm going to go with you in your plan, I'm giving up what I want. I'm making a sacrifice. I'm pleasing you, which is worship. To do what He's called you to do. And I'm giving it up. Acts chapter 13, verse 22 says this. This is David. He's talking about David. He says, He has testified concerning him. I have found David, son of Jesse, a man after my own heart. He will do everything I want him to do. Is that you? Are you willing to do whatever it is God's calling you to do? Because that is worship. Next thing. Trust God's opinion over man's. We've got to trust God's opinion over man. Jesus lived out this truth right before us. It says, Teacher, we know you're a man of integrity. You aren't swayed by men because you pay no attention to who they are. But you teach the way of God in accordance with truth. See, Jesus wasn't a people pleaser. He was a God pleaser. And here's the thing, you see. How many of you know what integrity is? Integrity, it means that you're undivided between what you believe and what you actually live out. That's integrity. This is what I believe over here. And so this is what I believe. I'm going to live it out over here in real life. Somebody that doesn't have integrity is that person that says, this is what I believe, but I'm going to live something totally different over here. Maybe we call them hypocrites. Maybe you've ever heard anybody say that? That they're hypocrites? There we go. That maybe you've heard that about church. I don't go to church because they're hypocrites. Well, hey, that's okay. But my point is this. Integrity is saying, this is what I believe, and I'm going to live it out over here. And this is what Jesus did. Jesus said, these are my beliefs, and I'm going to live them out, and I'm not going to worry about what other people do. Now, here's the great thing. When you live a life like that, you're living a life to please one. You're not living a life to please 100 different people. You see, when Jesus says, you know what, I'm only living a life to please one person. And that one person that I'm living a life to please is God. All of a sudden, that frees him. That frees him for the ability to be able to hang out with sinners and be able to go break bread with sinners and say, you know what, man, I'm hanging out with some sinners today because I don't care what all the spiritual people think. I'm not trying to do what they're trying to do. I'm not trying to please them. Instead, what I'm able to do is I'm trying to please him. And he says it's all right to go hang out with sinners. And so I'm going to go hang out with some sinners. You see, it frees you from being intimidated. When you get around a group of people and you're I'm intimidated to do what I know I'm supposed to do. I'm intimidated to do what I'm supposed to believe because I'm around all these other people that are. But see, I'm not trying to impress them anymore. I'm trying to impress one. And so when I start trying to impress one, I don't have to worry about impressing these other people and trying to make them happy. You see, you get freedom when you try to impress one person, when you try to make one person happy instead of 100 people happy. And so what happens is, Jesus says, I'm not trying to please the Pharisees, because the Pharisees are always going to be changing their mind. They're going to be changing this way and that way, and they're going to be tossing to and fro. But I'm going to try to please God. And when I try to please Him, that's where freedom is going to come. That's where loyalty is going to come. That's when I'm under pressure and I can't decide because everybody's pulling at me. I can look to the heavens and say, God, what do you want? I don't care what everybody else wants around me. I'm not concerned about them, God. The only one I'm concerned about is you. What a difference that'll make in your life of who you're trying to please. You see, that gives you the freedom to be able to go hang out with that sister or that brother that you know that their life is hurting, their life is falling apart. That gives you the freedom to be able to become that servant leader that God's calling you to be, because you're not worried about everybody else saying, why is he doing this? Why is he doing that? He's supposed to be higher up than that. It don't matter. You're not trying to please him. You're trying to please God. You see, that's where the freedom comes. And here's another thing. Jesus not only didn't pay attention to his critics. It's easy to ignore them sometimes, isn't it? But Jesus also didn't buy all the press he was getting. You know, sometimes, man, we start buying all the press. People tell us how good we are. People tell, oh man, you're so good. You're so smart. You're so great. And we start believing it, and all of a sudden that head starts swelling. It's getting big, and we start thinking, Jesus didn't buy all that either. Jesus says, I'm not going to buy into the press of the critics that are criticizing me, but I'm also not going to buy into the people that are always negative, or the people that are always telling me how great I am and how wonderful. Because here's the thing, when Jesus was going around, he was healing people and doing miracles. Guess what? He had a crowd following him. He had a bunch of people. Oh, Jesus, man, you're great, man. I saw you heal that guy. He didn't have a leg. You came up, you laid hands on him, and boom, there was a leg. It was amazing, Jesus. He didn't have that. He had all that going on, but he says, you know what? I'm not going to buy into all that press. And for some of us, we need to realize that we don't buy into all of everything that everybody's positive saying. Listen to what the Word says. It says, during the time when he was in Jerusalem, those days of the Passover feast, many people noticed the signs he was displaying and seeing. They pointed straight to God and trusted their lives to him. But Jesus did not entrust his life to them. He knew them inside and out. He knew how untrustworthy they were. He didn't need any help in seeing right through them. See, Jesus didn't cave under pressure to his critics or the press. He wasn't worried about publicly what everybody was saying. He says, I'm out to please one. For some of you at work, what does that mean? That you're going to have to make a stand on some things. That you're at work, and it's time to make a stand. So you know what? I just can't do that. That if you're at school, you've got to make a stand. I know it's summertime, but some of us are still in school. I've got to make a stand. And here's the reason that you want to put God's opinion first and not second or third, is because of knowledge and character. When I talk about knowledge, God knows everything, doesn't he? He's all-knowing. So when we put God's opinion first before people's, we're putting our belief in, okay, God knows it all. And then character. These guys that are hyping you up and talking how great you are, what's their true reason for it? Have you ever thought about that? These people that are so critical that you're taking their opinion, what's their reason for being so critical for you? And see, you have to look into that. But when I look into God, I don't have to say, God, are you trying to manipulate me? I don't have to ask that question because I know God's character. I know God is love and He cares for me. Where I don't know if everybody else is trying to speak into my life and give me opinions. I don't know their character that well. I don't know if they're saying, well, you know what, I can manipulate him and I can put him on like a puppet and use him like a string and I can just get him to do what I want. You don't have to do that with God. So that's two reasons that you want to trust God over everybody else. And when you trust in God, that's worship. The next thing God calls us to do as far as worship is take a risk. Mark chapter 8 verse 35 says this, "For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for me and for the sake of the gospel will find it." How many of you guys have a financial planner? You're like, I don't have one. You probably do. You may not even know it. But you know, if you have your 401k set up, and you know, if you ever go and sit down and talk to one, they normally give you two plans, don't they? Now for Jacob goes and he sits down with a financial planner. Jacob makes him, dude, you don't have to take risks, man. You got a long time till you retire. We're gonna do this thing safe. We're gonna play it safe, and by the time you retire, you're gonna have millions of dollars, and it's gonna be great. Now, on the other hand, Brother Marvin goes to a financial planner and says, you know, I'm about to retire here, and I need to get me $1 million. And Brother Marvin's in his 70s. Did I get that right? 80s. Well, see, the reason I was so hesitant there, one time when he was in his 70s, I said he was in his 80s, so I'm throwing it back to you now, getting you younger. But Brother Marvin's in his 80s. Brother Marvin goes in and says, hey, I'm about to retire here in about 2 more years. I need some finance. He goes, well, we got to take some risk with your money. He says, we got to take some chances to get you the money that you're going to need because you've waited so long. Well, here's the thing. God says that if you're going to be a Christ follower, if you're going to follow Christ, He says, guys, there's no playing it safe. He says, we're going to take some risk. Everything's going to be a risk, is what He's going to say. It's not playing safe. God, Christianity and safety, playing it safe, is an oxymoron. He doesn't want you to play it safe. He wants you to take risk. The other day, Eli, Alex, and Brack were at my mom and dad's house, and they were down there at the lake, and the way Eli describes it, his mom and daddy's house boat dock is junk, but there's a real nice one on the other side. And so they were going over to the nice boat dock, and it's a double decker, and so it's probably 12, 13, 14 feet high. And they were going up on the top of it, and Eli and Alex were jumping off the top. So it's 14 feet from the water, and they're jumping off, and then they convinced Brack that Brack needs to do it. And so Brack goes up there, and he said they're all this is Brack telling the story. He says they're all holding hands. They get up there on top, and they jump off. And Brack, he hits the lake, comes up, let's do it again. And he's loving it. And so we're talking to Brack, we're like, Brack, why did you do it? He said, we're all family. He says, I knew that if Alex and Eli were jumping, that I would be safe too. Listen, God's calling us to jump. God's saying, hey, I want you to take some risk. I want you to take some chances. And if we're all family and I'm your heavenly Father is what God's saying. He said, do you think I'm going to let you jump and take a risk and let you drown? He says, no. He says, I'm your Father. I'm going to take care of you. And he says, so if I'm calling you to take risk, if I'm calling you to go into the ministry, if I'm calling you to do something, I'm not going to let you go out there and jump and drown. I'm not going to let you go out there and not survive. He says, I'm your father. We're all family. And I don't know about you, but if I'm down there, Eli and Alex, as much as they fight with Brack, they wouldn't let him drown. Now, they might let him think he's going to drown. Might let him flounder a little while. But eventually they're going to reach down there and pull him and say, all right, come on, you're all right. I hope. No, seriously, they would. And here's my point. God's not going to let you drown. He's not going to let you go under and die. No, He's going to reach down. He's going to pull you up. Now, it's kind of like Pastor Kelly told me when I went to work with him. First thing he told me, he says, I'll never let you drown. He says, or hang yourself was his words. He says, I'll never let you hang yourself. And he said, I'm going to give you enough rope. But there's going to be times where you think you're hanging. But I'm not going to let you hang yourself. I'll come in and help you when you need it. And I believe God says the same thing to us. He says, man, I want you to take a risk. I'm not going to let you die. There'll be times where you think that you might, and it's going to get tough, but I'm not going to let you die. I'll come in there. I'll rescue. Matter of fact, Psalm says that He is the lifter of our head, that He lifts our head above the water. So He said, I may not pull you out of the situation, but I'm going to lift your head above the water, and I will keep you from drowning. You see, that's taking the risk. And here's some of you guys, you hate life. And can I tell you why you hate life? You're bored out of your mind. Yeah, life is so boring. I hate it. I just want, and here's the reason, because you're not taking any risk. You go out and you take some risk, and all of a sudden things get exciting. You know, like, okay, God, something's got to happen here, man. I'm taking a big risk, and I'm about to fall on my face. And all of a sudden, your mind's running, and you're trying to figure things out. If life's boring for you, take a risk. Go bungee jumping. See if there's not some excitement. If life's boring for you, go up in a plane and jump out. See how exciting it gets. With a parachute, of course. And you'll find excitement. If life's boring to you, show up on a Wednesday night, next Wednesday night, go knocking on doors, invite people to church. And you're standing at the door saying, who's going to show up? That excitement's there. And then you get some people that show up and like, we are so glad to see you. And then you get other people. I went to a lady and handed her a flyer. She goes, I don't do that kind of stuff. I'm like, what do you mean that kind of stuff? I don't do that kind of stuff. I have arthritis. I'm like, what? She goes, I can't sit. I got to move around. So, well, this is outside. You can move around. I don't do that kind of stuff. You never know what you're going to be faced with. That's the excitement. I told Christy, I said, I love going up to a door like this, knocking on where you can't see, wondering who's going to come to the door. What's going to happen? I said, it's kind of comical. You never know who's going to show up. It can be somebody like me, short, fat, ugly. Or it can be somebody like Christy that's just drop dead gorgeous. Or it can be somebody like Jacob. You just don't know what he's going to say. You never know. It's excitement. It's the risk. And God says, take a risk. Go do some outreach. Tell somebody about me. Make a plan. Man, I'm going to take some risk. For some of you, once a month, I'm going to tell somebody about Jesus. Oh, man. That once a month, that's pretty easy. That ain't even a risk, is it? Once a week. No, that's not even a risk. Once a day, every day, I'm going to tell somebody about Jesus. I'm going to invite somebody to Life Church every day. Also, now that's a risk, isn't it? That at some point you've got to go to somebody and you go, hey man, I'd like to tell you about Jesus, or I'd like to invite you to Life Church. And that all of a sudden you're going to find that you have purpose in your life. Life's not boring anymore because you're taking risks and you're worshiping because you're telling people about Jesus. Life's going to get exciting real fast. Is what's going to happen. Jesus says take risk. And the last thing, and I did this one for Christy. because she's in school and dealing with everything. God x-rays our motives. He x-rays our motives. And Chris can tell you more about x-rays than I can. But this is what I know about x-rays, CAT scans, MRIs. It's not a whole lot. But I do know this much. That an x-ray, a CAT scan, or MRI, it looks below the skin. Teresa had one done the other day. She went and had surgery on her knee. She was bored and didn't have nothing to do. And so she's like, hey, I'll just have surgery on my knee. So she goes to the doctor and they do this CAT scan, MRI, x-ray. They do something where they can see below the skin. And they say, oh, you got a torn whatchamacallit. And we need to go in and we need to repair that. Well, Jesus does x-rays. He does these x-rays and he looks below the skin. And he looks at your heart. And as he looks at your heart, he says, hey, that worship is authentic. That worship you're doing is real. Or you may look at it as, you got some junk in there that's not real. Your worship is a show. The only time you come to worship is when you're in a group of people. And it's like cancer. You see, with cancer, somebody told me today, man, I can't even remember who it was that told me. My mind just is. This morning, somebody told me about somebody that had cancer. It was Jason was telling me the guy that had cancer. His uncle, I believe, and he went and had an x-ray and found out that his body was eaten up with cancer. Stage 4 cancer is what he had. But it was never known from the outside. They had to do the x-ray or the CAT scan, MRI, to be able to look through the skin and see it. And God is saying, I want to take an x-ray. Is your worship authentic? Is your worship a lifestyle? Is it something that you do? John chapter 4 says this, says, the time is coming when the true worshipers, he's making a distinction here between true worshipers and false worshipers. It says, the time is coming when true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. That time is already here. You see, the Father is actively seeking such people to worship Him. God is spirit, and those who worship Him must worship Him in spirit and in truth. Jesus is saying, be careful about just going through the motions. Don't just go through the motions. Because He says, these people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain. You see, when you invite Him to do that x-ray, He sees and He can tell you, hey, it's just a lip service. It's not real. Matter of fact, David gives God permission. David says, God, you have permission to take x-rays of me anytime you want. Is what King David says. Psalms 139 says, search me, O God, and know my heart. He says, search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there's any offensive ways in me. He's saying, King David's saying, God, you've got permission to x-ray me anytime. Because I don't want you to just be that sniper shot where I'm lip servicing and my heart's not right. And you're saying, you're not a true worshiper. But King David says, search me, know my heart. Know my heart. Reveal to me anything that's not pleasing to you. As true worshipers, man, we need to give God that permission. God, search my heart. X-ray me, God. Is there anything in my life that's not pleasing to you? If it is, reveal it to me. And when He reveals it to you, then you're able to repent. You're able to change. And then the aroma that you let up will be a sweet aroma of worship. It won't be a stench coming up to him. He says, I don't accept that worship. You see, you can't live like hell all through the week and come in on Sunday morning and expect to raise your hands and worship, and God says, hey, I accept it. Because when you live like hell all week and then you come in on Sunday morning and you want to raise your hands for worship, God says, kind of like when I went to hug Christy, and she's like, oh, good, get away. But when we say, God, search my heart, reveal to me anything that's not pleasing to you. And we're not waiting till Sunday to worship, but it's who we are. It's what we do. Then when we come together corporately to worship, we raise our hands and we worship God, or however you worship. God says, oh, that's a sweet aroma. And He says, I accept that worship. I don't know about you, but I want God to accept my worship. I don't want God to say, nah, I don't accept it because you've been in sin all week. I don't accept it because you've ignored me all week, and now that you have a crisis, you're coming to me. But I want my worship to be who I am. I want it to be a lifestyle. And that's why we've been talking about this for the past 4 weeks. That is not a moment, it's not a time, it's not a date, it's not compartmentalized, it's who I am. That I live it. And I challenge you to do the same. Last time I challenged somebody to do the same, I was talking to somebody the other day and they were telling me that, I said, when you challenge us to read the Bible, every day for lunch I'm reading the Bible. They accepted that challenge. And I know that that's made a difference in their life. And so once again, I'm challenging you to say, you know what? And here's the thing. That person that shared that with me, they're worshiping daily. Every time they read their Bible, it's a time of worship. They're not just waiting to Sunday. Every time they pray, they're worshiping. And when you read your Bible and you pray, that when you get up, it can't help but change your attitude. And now you're living that worship in front of other people and saying, that's what I want. You're making a difference whether you know it or not. Let's pray. Father, God, we come before you.
To speak